Tonight on Next, Lobbying 101. Don't just complain about lobbying in politics, become a lobbyist. Our politics guy will show you how as the Colorado legislature begins its session. How we go about determining what's fake news and what's real news that politicians just don't like. After President-elect Trump beats the press, our political experts imagine an America without a free and functioning media. Perhaps you think getting rid of reporters would rid the world of a lot of crap. Maybe, but we'd still have to deal with the 500 pounds of it that they pulled out of a park in Jeffco. A plea tonight for people to get their together on Next.
Let's get ready to legislate. Nope. There is absolutely no way to make the start of the Colorado legislative session sound exciting. Not even that. There's not a lot of sizzle, but there is substance there. You know, legislators will pass a few hundred bills that impact our lives over the next 120 days. You might as well have a say in it. Day one of the legislature is all about pomp and circumstance, and mostly pomp, if I'm being honest. Those people really love their pomp. But the plans are already laid to change the way that our state works in short order. So if you want to be heard, you need to get going now. Our politics guy, Brandon Ritteman, explains from a less photogenic part of the Capitol.
The real story is actually down here. We're in the basement of the Capitol building, where the legislature's nonpartisan staff is already chewing over bills that lawmakers want to see passed into law. As the little signs they've got all over the building helpfully point out, lawmakers had to already turn in their first 3 ideas for bills before New Year's Day. Each lawmaker gets to propose 5 bills. Their final 2, they're due very quickly. Their last 2 bills have to be turned in within a week's time. So clock's ticking if you've got an idea for a change you want to see made to Colorado law. And I know some of you are thinking, who cares what I think? No one's going to listen to my ideas about changing Colorado laws. Not true. We can help you out with it too. Go to 9news.com where you're going to find our guide to being a citizen lobbyist in Colorado. I wrote it myself based on my experience of things I've seen that have worked and haven't worked down here at the legislature. You're going to find tips for how to get lawmakers' attention and also how to put your best argument forward no matter what side of the political spectrum you come from. That is both helpful as lawmakers work on suggesting their last 2 bills they get to propose, but also as you hear what they're working on down here. If they're working on an issue that touches your life, look up that guide. They'll give you some advice on how to make your viewpoint known. For Next, I'm Brandon Ritteman.
Did you notice that the politics guy was leaning to the left there? Brandon's guide covers some basics, like the fact that anybody can show up and get a turn at the microphone when committees debate bills, and also some of those insider tips, including, this is super interesting, the best time and place if you want to catch a legislator for a one-on-one conversation. So there's been a lot of talk about fake news today, and I'll try not to repeat what you've heard elsewhere. But here's how we operate, and my view on it. So it's responsible, in my view, to report that the president-elect has been briefed on potentially compromising material which cannot be verified. It's not responsible, in my view, to air details of that unverified information. So that's the standard that we apply here. The Obama administration was covertly hostile to the press, aggressively prosecuting whistleblowers who tried to inform the public about key issues and going after journalists who spoke with them. The Trump administration, on the other hand, appears to be overtly hostile to the role of the media, targeting individual reporters by name and treating the media less like an adversary and more like an unethical or potentially criminal enterprise. To be honest, I think that if the freedom of the press were put up for a popular vote, it would lose. And some of the blame for the state of the media belongs with those of us who are in the business. But before you stand and cheer for our demise, I ask the 9 News political experts on the left and right to imagine a future without a functioning free press.
Look, I think it's realistic for us all to recognize the fact that ultimately it seems like the media is starting to decrease in prominence, and we're seeing the democratization of information with the rise of blogs, with the rise of Twitter, with the rise of Facebook, and a lot of the onus is starting to fall on everyday citizens to start to fact check on their own. I think that this is, in some ways, can be advantageous, but it's also very dangerous.
Look, there's no doubt that the media has a credibility problem these days, and the fact is that plenty of folks are looking to alternative sources of media to get their information, quite frankly, things they already agree with. So what I think is going to happen is you'll have this period where news becomes extremely partisan. You won't be able to find a nonpartisan source. People will be fed their own beliefs over and over again. All of a sudden, there will be a demand for independent journalism once again. I don't know how long this is going to take. I hope it happens really, really soon, and I hope it happens in the next year, but it's got to happen if we're ever going to know the truth about anything ever again.
Just that. That's all it is. So let's talk again for a moment about the Denver police officer in the mounted unit. The guy who forgot about his horse, left it without food or water for 16 hours. The horse was later put down, and the officer was docked 1 day's pay. Today, Denver police would not tell us if that officer actually escaped harsher punishment, or if the 1 day's pay was the most serious penalty allowed under DPD's rules.
Horse owners have asked Next whether DPD-mounted patrol horses are checked in on at night, how long they go without any human making sure they're okay. Denver police told us today the horses are left alone without checks for 15 and a half hours a day, from 3 in the afternoon until 6:30 in the morning. DPD says the horses have access to water dispensers overnight, as well as heated water, and they wrote to us, quote, "They are loved." As for the officer's discipline, the loss of 1 day's pay, all DPD would say is that that punishment fell within the disciplinary matrix, the allowed penalties for the officer's mistake. DPD would not say if a superior officer, in this case it would be the police chief and the manager of safety, had the option to assign harsher discipline but decided against it. The officer is still with the mounted patrol.
This show has been on the air for 5 months. This will now be the second time I've done a story about a dog park at risk of closing down because people don't pick up after their dogs. That's just part of the problem up at the Elk Meadow Off-Leash Park in Evergreen.
I always say dogs are just more honest than people are.
To make sense of that phrase, just look off the trail at Elk Meadow Off-Leash Park. Look at it, humans. Look at what you did.
You're telling me stuff like this is all over the place?
All over this park, 108 acres covered with exactly this type of stuff.
I'm a cat owner, so maybe that's why I don't understand. How could people just watch their dogs go
This one looks fresh.
and not pick it up?
Maybe they're just irresponsible. They don't care. Their heads are in their iPhones. They'll be hiking out here in their iPhone when we've got this gorgeous, gorgeous scenery.
Maybe you're right, Mary. And this isn't a scattered problem. Jeffco Open Space enlisted a group of volunteers to pick up the leftovers over a series of mornings this fall.
Just in those 3 events, over 550 pounds of dog waste has been picked up by hand.
You heard him right.
We put them in bags, and we actually have a hand scale, and we weigh every bag, so we know exactly how much we're taking out of here.
550 pounds in 3 mornings. Now you understand why the creek below is seeing 20 times the acceptable levels of E. coli bacteria.
We're losing the depth of soil, and we're losing the vegetation, so then that contamination is actually permeating just below the surface and then into the water and contaminating that for downstream.
Matt Robbins works with Jeffco Open Space. They are planning a series of meetings to figure out solutions to the poop problem, along with other environmental issues like people destroying land and making their own trails.
Really, the impact on the natural surface is unbelievable.
He's hoping the community and Jeffco can come up with solutions, but he isn't ruling out closing down the park if people don't start taking better care of it. The whole thing ticks Mary off. We'll give her the last word.
So when you people from Denver come up here and let your dogs poop here and don't pick it up and goes in the stream, you're going to be drinking it.
Ooh, spicy. Beyond the poop problem, there's also the issue of parking. There just isn't enough, and so many people are up there on the weekend. They just illegally park along the road. Now, if you want to head to those meetings, we have information on the story up on 9news.com. Jeffco Open Space estimates about 4,000 people take their dogs to the Elk Meadow recreation area. And the problem that we're seeing is not just unbagged poo, it's bagged poo. We picked up 7 bags of it while we were walking up and down the trail with Matt Robbins today.
Your Honor, that shows intent. That shows intent.
Absolutely.
If the bag is there. All right, well, we'll stay on it. Boy, that woman talking about it flowing downstream to Denver, if that doesn't get people's attention, I'm not sure what will.
That's why we did it.
Sorry, it's dinner time, folks. All right, thank you, Steve. So we legitimately felt bad yesterday when an RTD spokesman joined us to say the A-line was working, and then it broke down minutes later. So we're happy to tell you it's working today. Score 1 in the win column for the train to the plane. RTD spokesperson Nate Curry, when he was here, was really upfront with us that the A-line's struggling to implement some first-of-its-kind technology nationwide. And he also said, with some hesitation, that no one has lost their job for this debacle. But we also brought up a Next viewer's mind-bending question about the A-line's frequent delays. We had a next viewer who's a bit of a scholar of life who asked us if the A-line train is running 15 minutes behind, but there's a train every 15 minutes, is the train actually completely on time? That was kind of trippy, but it's not. By your standard, it's not.
Yeah, I tell you, it was a mind-blown kind of thing at RTD and the DTP. That made the rounds internally.
Yeah.
And the answer is it's definitely not on time, but it gets the schedule back to on schedule, and so that's the important thing. But it's a very astute question.
That one blew my mind too. So that brings us to a serious note again. RTD likes to talk now these days about how many A-line trains are arriving within 15 minutes of their scheduled time. And that number is really high. It looks really good. It's 97, 98%. But 15 minutes is not the standard that we've been using all along, and it's not the on-time percentage that gets officially reported. That standard is 5 minutes late. RTD says it's not trying to fudge the numbers with this new 15-minute measurement. It's just trying to give some idea about the length of delays, which in fairness is information that Next has asked be shared with riders. So people came streaming back to the Cherry Cricket today in Denver. Restaurants still closed, has been since a fire in the kitchen around Thanksgiving, but today people came to the Cricket to drop off food.
Today we're doing a food drive to benefit Metro Caring here at the Cherry Cricket. We find it really important to give back, and we've had so much good response from the community during our fire that unfortunately happened right before Thanksgiving. I'm a huge volunteer, and so anything that we can do to give back. Metro Caring is a great partner, so you actually have dignity when you go in to get your food. It's like a shopping market. So you can go in and take your kids and shop for fresh produce and canned goods and everything you want. So it's fantastic.
It means so much that everyone is coming together to help a community, and it shows that how vast our neighborhood really is, and that means a lot to all of us here at the Cherry Cricket.
We appreciate anybody that comes out. This is a really great community here in Cherry Creek, and we know we have a lot of support out there. People have been asking us, when are you going to open? And we're trying to open as soon as we can, but we want to make sure that people know that we are giving back during this time off. We will open again.
Will reopen, that is the promise, but again, no set date. We, of course, will let you know here because #journalism. Our Broncos guy offers his short and sweet take on the new head coach and where the team will finish next season. It's a sign that something happened in Larkspur, but what? Let's just blame it on the weather. We've blamed everything else on the weather this week. A forecast free of flying metal, next.
Windy, mild along the Front Range today, almost 60 in the city. We're done with the above average temperatures. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin, and we're tracking a second cold front. The first one came through Fort Collins and Boulder about an hour ago, dropped a little bit of light snow right at the start of the rush. But the snow showers now tapering off, not in the high country, though. The snow and wind creating dangerous driving conditions. Winter storm warnings continue for another foot of snow at many of your favorite resorts between now and 9 a.m. tomorrow. Extreme avalanche danger across the Gunnison of National Forest and just south of the Aspen area. We'll monitor that. The snow machine is on with more snow coming in tonight. Denver with a weak front coming in tomorrow afternoon. Well, we have the chance to see a trace to an inch of snow between 3 o'clock tomorrow and 9 o'clock tomorrow night. No advisories posted, but in the foothills, the amounts could be slightly higher. In the city tonight, I think we're done with the snow for now, unless you're watching me just about 7,000 feet in Evergreen and Conifer. In Denver, we're going to drop to 23. The good news is this front's cutting off the wind. Ooh, we've all had it with the wind. 38 tomorrow with increasing clouds, again some afternoon and early evening snow. Nice Friday, Saturday forecast, a better chance of snow Sunday into Monday, and maybe some accumulation here to round out the weekend, and it does kind of feel like football weather.
So Vance Joseph is the new head coach of the Denver Broncos, and our Broncos guy Mike Kliss, you've been talking and tweeting and talking, it seems like all day and all night now. So 9 things I want to talk about, but let's do it in as few words as possible.
Okay.
Vance Joseph.
Energy, sharp, born leader.
John Elway.
All in, complete control.
Risk level.
Fairly high.
Wade Phillips.
Gone.
Quarterback.
It's going to be Paxton Lynch sooner rather than later.
No Tony Romo?
No Tony Romo. Over the hill.
Playoffs. Playoffs?
Next year.
Super Bowl?
A couple of years.
Tired?
Adrenaline.
Mike Kliss, many thanks. What if it's not that millennials don't want to save money, but they choose not to save money? That'll work out, right? And there's no money in it, no reward, but if Colorado could be on the lookout for these loose yaks, that'd be super.
It's a sign that something wild happened along I-25 in Larkspur. That would be a sign pole that is stuck like a javelin through another sign. At first we're thinking, how does the wind do that? But CSP, which took the photo, tells us that a car hit one sign, which sent the sign pole 400 feet through the air and into the other sign. So thank goodness that didn't end up spearing another vehicle. That's a different story tonight. Send us the signs that catch your eye for whatever reason. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext. Go ahead and sip that latte, millennials. You're sucking down your life savings. There's new research that found that nearly half of millennials throw more money at coffee than at their retirement. Christine Noel is a millennial. She likes coffee. I assume that she's part of the problem.
My parents might agree with that. I do love coffee. Yeah, that whole retiring at 65 thing, yeah, for millennials, try 70, 72 years old, because a lot of them won't be able to afford to retire any earlier. No money in the bank, at least certainly not enough. The study done by a micro-investment app, in it, research looked at the spending and saving habits of 1,900 millennials, young adults 18 to 35. 45% of those, 18 to 23, have spent more money feeding their Starbucks addiction than feeding their retirement pot. And 35% of older Gen Yers, we're talking 24 to 35, feel the same way. Why is this? They love coffee that much? Now, it's really the result of a larger issue. Millennials here admitted they don't feel savvy when it comes to saving and say they were not taught in school how to invest, hence the behaviors and problems now. Professor Matt Klaus at Daniels College of Business says it's time for millennials to get an attitude adjustment when it comes to their finances.
For many people, savings is kind of what's left over at the end of the month, if there's anything left over after I've done all my spending. When in reality, it should be the other way around. One of the first things that comes out of your paycheck should be some savings.
Not a bad idea, right? Really, this feeds into the idea that millennials have that Peter Pan syndrome. Never want to grow up, live in the moment, YOLO, this coffee tastes good now, and retirement that doesn't go down quite as smoothly, so let's worry about that later. Same with getting high-paying jobs. Some students that I spoke with say their friends would rather have jobs that simply make ends meet, go on adventures, go skiing, have fun, rather than say work 60 to 80 hours a week, grind now to have more money later.
Yeah, work to live, not live to work.
Right.
Every time I hear somebody our age say, well, you know, there's Social Security, I'm thinking, no!
Yeah, that's not going to be around when millennials need it too, so they need to start saving. Even if it's a little bit, they need to start saving now.
Yeah, just a little bit. You come back anytime.
Oh, thanks.
She doesn't want any part of this. We are back with yaks. Loose yaks, Christine, loose yaks. It's a sign, one that really piqued our interest. Spotted by Grant Hoekstra up near Bellevue, northwest of Fort Collins. It reads, lost. 2 yaks. No photos or anything. So we were curious, how does one lose yaks? We called the number and learned that the yaks escaped in July. They're believed to be still out there just yakking it up. Owner tells us he's had a few reports of yak sightings by hikers in Rocky Mountain National Park. No, the yaks do not have names. They will not come to you if called. An email a moment ago from Bob Mickelson, who writes, Kyle, I think you are out in right field when you say the popular vote would be against the freedom of the press. How do you come up with that? By reading my email, Bob. There's an email from Dallas who says, biggest problem is news consumers who would rather be validated than informed. That is right on. But then the anecdote. And this we got from Randy Raynaud, who was watching last night on Facebook when we premiered Next After Dark. He says, Next is fun and different, even though I don't always agree. That is the spirit. We'll see you next time.